My wife slapped me in my 20s and I brushed it off. I shouldn't have. I've been carrying something from long ago and I need to share it, even if it feels heavy. About 16 or 17 years back, when we were in our 20s with 2 little ones at home, my wife slapped me during an argument. It was the only time it ever happened. It didn't physically hurt, but the shock of it hit me hard. At the time, I brushed it off, thinking it was just a moment of stress. I grew up seeing those moments in movies where a woman slapping a man was treated lightly. So, I convinced myself it was nothing. We were young and overwhelmed, and I chalked it up to postpartum struggles. I never questioned it. But over the years, I realized how deeply it shaped me. Every time I tried to bring it up, she would cry, deep, heartfelt sobs. I ended up comforting her, taking on the weight of her emotions about something that had happened to me. I loved her, so I kept absorbing it. I told myself it was just her going through different phases: postpartum, overstimulation, premenopause, and then menopause. Each stage came with a new explanation, and I convinced myself to be more patient, more understanding, more silent. What I neglected was my own empathy. I think the frustration built quietly because I never knew when I could express my own feelings. If I voiced anything, it would be linked to her struggles, and I'd have to calm her down to avoid upsetting the kids. So I stayed silent, absorbing it all. I hate that it changed my perspective. It made me numb to others dealing with their own struggles. I know those issues are real and serious, but for years, they were the reasons I had to swallow my own feelings, slowly shutting off a part of myself. I never gave ultimatums, thinking they were harmful to relationships. I was scared to say, I can't do this anymore, fearing it might send her into a spiral. So I kept the peace, working hard, cooking every meal for 17 years, managing the house and most of the bills. She contributed, but it felt like a small fraction compared to what I gave. I always told myself that was love, that was partnership. In a strange way, I believe she appreciates me. I think she knows I've endured a lot and helped her through tough times. But appreciation isn't the same as truly fitting together in the long run. Now that the kids are older, I see our dynamic clearly. I can't imagine living the rest of my life like this, always suppressing my feelings so she can avoid discomfort or guilt. Maybe the slap itself wasn't the whole story. Maybe the bigger story is everything I absorbed afterward, everything I never said, everything I excused. Next week, my lawyer will serve her. I don't feel happy about it. I don't feel victorious. I just feel like I'm finally listening to the part of myself that never had space in this marriage. My aunt hit my mother, so I dragged her across the floor and punched her until she passed out. My aunt is a toxic person. Our whole family has distanced themselves from her. She's done things in the past that are hard to believe. After years away, she suddenly returned to my mom's house. My mom has 2 other sisters and a brother, but she never got along with this one. My mom is a wonderful person, but she sensed something was off about her sister from a young age. So she kept her distance. My aunt would hurt people's feelings for no reason, isolating herself from everyone. Our gran cut her off after she tried to steal thousands of dollars from her. We all genuinely believe there's something wrong with her. One morning, I was at my mom's house when there was a knock at the door. I opened it, and there she was. She looked like she had been through something terrible, her eyes vacant. I tried to stop her, but she pushed me down. I don't know why she chose my mom's house. She went into the kitchen and startled my mom, hitting her in the face before my mom even had a chance to react. My heart dropped when I saw it. Something took over me. Anger or adrenaline, I can't say. I ran up behind her, grabbed her hair, and dragged her out onto the back lawn. I hit her several times, and blood was everywhere. Thankfully, no one saw me, or I might not be sharing this now. Afterward, I checked on my mom, who was in a lot of pain. When I looked back outside, my aunt was gone. We told our family immediately, and they were confused and angry about why she attacked my mom. I'm still hurt and angry as I write this, but I also feel tremendous guilt for what I did. I've never fought anyone before. I'm not a fighter at all. Something just snapped in me. I can't shake it off. The attack felt so unreal, and there was no reason for it. The thought of her having a weapon is terrifying. We didn't call the police because I feared the consequences of my actions. That's another thing I feel ashamed about. Should I feel bad or not? I've been bottling this up for a while. My gran was devastated. She just wanted her daughter back. But from a young age, my aunt chose drugs and spent time in prison. You can't help someone who doesn't want to be saved.
I poured skunk tincture all along my neighbors' windows so they'd be quieter. They were so loud all the time. I tried talking to them, explaining that my boyfriend and I worked early hours at a coffee shop and bakery. I even bribed them with treats I baked, but they constantly opened their windows, blasting music and having loud conversations. I could hear everything. Their mom visiting, their boyfriends not texting back, even when they got their nails done. I did everything to drown it out, playing my own music, using fans for white noise, and keeping the TV on. It felt like they knew when I was trying to escape the noise and turned it up even more. We tried talking to landlords and made noise complaints, but they just learned to be sneakier about it. Eventually, it turned spiteful. I found myself banging on the walls and putting music in the window. Our houses weren't connected, but they were close enough that I felt the stress building. I was losing sleep, unable to relax, and getting sent home from work because I was so exhausted. When I shared my frustrations, people suggested funny revenge ideas, but none resonated with me like the skunk tincture did. I felt it in my bones that it would work. So, one morning before work, I ordered some online and dumped it all along the side of their house where they kept the windows open. The smell was overwhelming, and I worried I might get some on me and smell bad at work, but I didn't. A few hours later, I received a notification from our camera. It showed motion between our houses, where I had poured the tincture. One of the girls was pacing along the sidewalk, spraying the rocks under the windows with Lysol. I watched as more of them came out. One opened the window, pulled off the screen, and wiped everything down. Eventually, a maintenance guy showed up, followed by the gas company. Panic set in, and I started to feel guilty, wondering if I had gone too far. I don't think they ever figured it out or suspected me. For the next 2 months, those windows stayed shut, and I barely heard a peep from them. It was so peaceful. I couldn't believe it worked. In the 2nd grade, 2 women with clipboards sat in on our classroom for a week just to observe. They were there specifically to observe me. I'll never forget the day they were introduced to our class as observers for the week. They'll be in the back watching me teach for a few days. In order for them to do their job properly, please ignore them. Act like they're not here. They sat silently, taking notes for an hour each day. That Friday, my teacher kept me back during recess, telling me the 2 women wanted to chat and ask me some questions. I was placed in a chair directly facing them, with my teacher and her aide standing a few steps behind. Something felt off. They explained delicately why they were there. My teacher knew I was a good student, so my recent failing test grades didn't make sense. They showed me examples of my previous work, where I had spelled the same words and done the same math correctly. Have you been failing these tests on purpose? My heart raced. It was true. I had been faking it. They looked serious, and I shamefully admitted that yes, I had been. When they asked why, the truth led to my first real scolding. I did it because I was jealous of the kids who seemed to have a second recess. There was a group of about 20 students across the 6 second grade classrooms who got pulled each week for half the day. One day, I saw them playing outside while I was stuck inside. They looked like they were having so much fun, and I wanted to join them. I asked one how they got into that group and was told, because I'm bad at spelling and math. Ugh, my 2 strongest subjects. What was I to do? I decided to dumb myself down, to become one of them. I had to act like them, think like them, test like them. After our little interview, my failed attempt at manipulation was never discussed again. My parents never questioned me about it, and to this day, I don't know what they knew, if anything at all. My peers never found out, and I never told a soul. Those women scared me more than I can express. I edited a yearbook entry and never told anyone about it. This happened during my last year of high school, and I've kept it to myself all this time. I was part of the yearbook committee, where we had a tradition of writing short texts for each graduating student. Most entries were sweet or funny, but one stood out to me in a troubling way. There was a guy in our year who wasn't part of the popular crowd and had faced bullying throughout high school. He was a bit different, but never mean. Someone had submitted what seemed like a nice tribute, but it was laced with cruel undertones. It made subtle digs about his crush, mocked his style, and included mean-spirited jokes that only made sense if you knew his story. The submission was anonymous, but I recognized the email address from a kid who always tried to be funny to fit in. It felt like a final blow before graduation, and I couldn't just let that happen. So I changed it. I didn't rewrite everything, just removed the hurtful parts and made it neutral and kind. I was careful not to make it overly glowing, but I ensured there was nothing that could hurt him. When the yearbooks came out, no one questioned the text. As far as I know, he never realized how close he came to being humiliated one last time. I never told him or anyone else on the committee. Honestly, I'm not sorry for what I did, even though I wasn't supposed to change the submissions. Everyone deserves to end their high school years on a decent note. I still think about it sometimes and wonder how he's doing now. I know this isn't a terrible confession, but I felt the need to share it. I broke a school rule, but I don't regret it. It's easier to tell strangers than people I actually know. It happened over a decade ago, and bringing it up would feel awkward. I was one of those shy kids who preferred to fly under the radar. Now, as I'm expecting my first child, I find myself reflecting on how kids treat each other. I always knew it was wrong how this guy was treated. It wasn't his fault for being different. He was genuinely nice, just socially awkward and out of sync with our group dynamics. I'm not proud of not speaking up in person, only finding the courage to act when I could remain anonymous.
My girlfriend kicks me off my Spotify account every morning. I couldn't be happier. My girlfriend and I live together, and my mornings start much earlier than hers. By 6:30 a.m., I'm usually on my way to the office, just as she begins to wake up. Being one of the first people in the office, I always put on my headphones and listen to music to kick off my day. But after about 15 minutes, my music stops. I get a notification that the output device has changed. That's because we have a Google Home connected to my Spotify account. When she wakes up, she starts her day with, "Hey Google, play." I always leave my phone open to see what she's listening to, and when she heads out around 7:30, I get my account back. I'm sure she has no idea she's part of this little routine, and I have no intention of telling her. It would be easy to switch to her account, but I love knowing she's awake and starting her day with her favorite songs. Plus, I get to learn what her current favorites are, so when we're together, I know just the right songs to play. Some days, I think she's onto me. We're both very happy together, and I plan on proposing in a few weeks. I'm excited to spend the rest of my life with her. We met about 5 years ago in college, where we argued over a seat in calculus. Eventually, we teamed up academically since we were in the same major. We were best friends for 3 years before starting to date 2 years ago. Now we live together with our 2 wonderful cats. The engagement ring will arrive soon, and we have a romantic getaway planned next month. I love photography, and we both enjoy hiking, so we often go on hikes with my camera. I plan to propose at one of our favorite peaks. Love isn't about grand gestures. It's all the little things that add up. I proposed today. It took longer than I expected, but it was worth the wait. She cried, I cried, and our families are overjoyed. Now it's time to celebrate and start planning our wedding. I can't wait to spend my life with this amazing woman. I hope everyone finds love, because everyone deserves to feel cherished.
I faked my resume, and now I'm in a tough spot. I'm using a throwaway account for obvious reasons. Since high school, my parents stopped checking in on my grades. Their mentality was simple. We don't care as long as you get into a good university. This attitude continued into college, where they gave me free rein as long as I majored in what they wanted and graduated on time with decent grades. The truth is, I failed my first year and had to switch my major. I didn't tell them, and they didn't ask. I thought as long as I got my act together and didn't drop out, I'd be fine. Then, out of the blue last semester, my dad asked me to write a resume. I panicked and altered my GPA and major, fabricating details to make it look good. This winter break, my dad surprised me by saying he knows people at a big company and gave them my resume. Now I feel trapped. They might discover the truth and inform my dad, and I fear being disowned. The best case scenario is they don't check and offer me the job, but I'd have to live with the guilt of getting it through nepotism. This situation is weighing heavily on me. I'm usually an easygoing guy, but this is causing me anxiety like never before. I feel terrible for failing and lying to my family, and now I'm on the verge of being exposed. I hoped sharing this would help, but I honestly don't know. I've read all the comments on my post. Some suggest I play it off and fake it till I make it, while others urge me to come clean. Some even say I should distance myself from my family and do my own thing. It seems like everyone is as conflicted as I am. I don't know what I'll decide, but I want to thank everyone who took the time to read and comment. I appreciate all the feedback, even the tough love. The candidate I had to interview for this week was my high school bully. I work for a fairly large company in the tech industry and have held a management position for about 5 years. Recently, I was tasked with helping to build a new team and was assigned to conduct multiple interviews. It was short notice, and my role was simply to assess the candidates and share my impressions. As the company returned to in-person interviews, the process felt even more chaotic. When I received the list of candidates, I saw a name that made my heart drop. Brad. It had been over 15 years since I last saw him, but I could never forget the face of the person who made my high school years unbearable. Brad was the classic bully jock, while I was an overweight theater kid lost in advanced math and science classes. Those years were some of the darkest of my life, and Brad was a significant part of that pain. So, seeing him among the candidates was a shock. When he walked in for the interview, I recognized him immediately, even though he didn't seem to recognize me at first. As we sat down, the memories flooded back, and he eventually remembered who I was. He tried to act friendly, pretending we were old pals from high school, and I played along. The interview went okay. He was average, nothing remarkable. At one point, he joked that I would get him the job, right? I laughed, but inside, I felt a storm brewing. After finalizing the interviews yesterday, I wrote Brad a harsh review. I downplayed his strengths and exaggerated his flaws, mentioning how he attempted to sway my judgment by referencing our past. It's been 15 years since I graduated, and I've transformed into someone entirely different. Yet facing him dragged me back to those painful days, and now I'm left wondering how to reconcile those feelings.
I've hit rock bottom and I don't know how much more I can take. I never thought I'd be in this position, but here I am, homeless with my 2 kids. My daughter is 5 and my baby boy is just 8 months old. I feel like I'm about to crash, mentally and emotionally. I don't have much fight left in me. I feel defeated and hopeless. Every time I see a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel, another storm hits. I've been sleeping in my car with my kids. I try to work whatever gigs I can, but between the cost of food and fuel, I'm barely surviving. Whenever I can scrape together enough, I get us a room just so my kids can have some peace and rest. My daughter is so confused, but she's such a good sport. She tries to stay cheerful, even though she knows something isn't right. I've tried to get help from the state, but because of my legal status, they won't do anything for me. My kids are citizens. But that doesn't seem to matter when it comes to actually getting help. And even then, there's barely any funding available. My situation just doesn't fit into the system. I don't know what to do anymore. I'm trying to stay strong for my kids, but inside I feel like I'm breaking. I just needed to tell someone. I just needed to say it out loud somewhere. But I wanted to share some good news. I made the choice to come to New York City, and the same day I went to apply. I was placed into a family shelter. My kids and I finally have a roof over our heads. I'm so thankful to everyone who shared resources and advice, and especially to the handful of people who sent something to make sure my kids were okay. Your kindness meant more than you know. I'm confident that with this opportunity, I can finally turn my life around. I'm grateful, hopeful, and ready to work hard for a better future. Thank you all so much.
I crashed out over Christmas music and lost my job. The title says it all. I worked in a tiny office with only 4 of us in an open space, about the size of a bedroom. There was a glass wall separating us, but it didn't provide much coverage, allowing for collaboration. All my coworkers were over the age of 65. I'm 35, surrounded by people who were 65, 66, and 75. The 75-year-old man started playing Christmas music from the 1930s, and he played it loud. It wasn't nightclub loud, but it was enough to make phone calls difficult and drown out my thoughts. He played it all day, from 9 a.m. until we left at 4, without any breaks. My other coworkers seemed to enjoy the music, which is why it wasn't a problem for them. But when you're forced to listen to music you don't like, it becomes grating, especially when you need to get work done. Endless, morose Christmas crooning echoed through the tiny office for hours. The man thought he was boosting office morale by playing the music. I'm not sure how the others managed phone calls. They were hard of hearing to begin with. Things escalated when I asked my boss if he could either ask my coworker to wear headphones or turn it off. This was on day 1. He agreed, but then ignored me. Day 2 rolled around, and the man turned the music on at 9 a.m., even louder than the day before. I was a little more upset, but still trying to be reasonable. I asked my boss again to address the issue. He agreed once more, and then proceeded to ignore me again. I felt I had to handle it myself, which I didn't want to do because the man was old and not particularly kind. I politely asked him if we could please wear headphones for the music, explaining that I found it distracting. He said no. That's when I completely lost it. The crooning continued. I was still struggling on the phone, and my boss just watched in silence as the man refused to stop the music. My coworker shut the door between us, which muffled the sound a bit, but it didn't fix the problem. When my boss opens the door to ask if that helped, the ancient Christmas music flooded back into my office at full volume. I snapped and yelled, "No." It felt like he was implying I was the source of the problem, as if he was asking, did that minor tweak fix your issue with the noise? After that, I left the building. Now I'm unemployed from a job I held for 3 years. I feel ridiculous and foolish that it all happened over Christmas music, but it's hard to explain how grating that constant noise was on my ability to work. I reached my breaking point. I would have been reasonable if it had just been Christmas music during lunch or something. But I'm confused about how anyone thought it was acceptable to operate in an office like that. Anyway, wish me luck with my unemployment appeal.
I lie my way through my resume, and it's really paid off. For the last 10 to 12 years, I've been stretching the truth on my resume. Over time, it's become less of a fabrication as I've gained real skills and experience. But I still feel the weight of my deception. My resume claims I hold an associate's degree from ITT Tech, a school that recently faced significant issues and lost its credibility. I always thought there was no way to verify it. Living in one of the poorest states in the U.S., I currently make $22 an hour without a real college degree, which feels absurd here. I have a job that keeps me in an office most days. I arrive at 7 a.m., finish my tasks by 9, and then fill the hours until 3. I work for a family-owned company where most of the management is quite old and not very tech-savvy. When I first started, I was asked to update the employee handbook given a 3-week deadline. I used a tool that completed it in about 45 seconds. They were thrilled with my work when I submitted it. My coworkers and I often joke that the degree I have framed in my office might as well be fake. Still, I do my job well and conduct myself professionally. I'm well liked by my team. It's true what they say. Fake it till you make it. I know that $22 an hour seems laughable to many, but in my area, it's considered a decent wage. I support a family and own a home. I haven't been at my current job for 12 years. It's been 2. My resume has become more truthful over time, as I've held real positions and succeeded in them. I'm a real person, just someone who has lurked on Reddit for years and finally decided to share. My profile will remain private because I'm involved in some communities that might raise eyebrows. I realize what I'm doing isn't exactly ethical, but it's not illegal either. My company doesn't deal with the public. We only work with other businesses. I don't handle money, just manage a staffing budget. I've only used AI once for a task that was unexpectedly assigned to me. My predecessor took 8 hours to do what I can accomplish in 2. That's not my fault. I do my job and do it well. I'm also just 2 semesters away from earning a real degree. And all this experience will contribute to that. I'm sorry if my story has stirred some strong feelings.